The new Rewind 100.9 with amazing variety from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And our AccuWeather forecast in a moment. Sunshine, mid-80s today. Brian Thompson has all the details. But this morning, we're very fortunate, very pleased, and quite honored to have one of the upcoming inductees and honorees and performers for the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame show on July 12th at the Civic Center. This year's inductees include Howie Day, Dave Mallet, Nellis Paul. There'll be other musical performances by Devon Square, the Mallet Brothers Band, and Carol Noonan. But first and foremost, in joining us this morning, for me, it's a personal thrill and pleasure to be able to speak with Don McLean.
Nice to talk to you, too.
Well, Don, first off, congratulations on your selection for induction into the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame. And something a lot of people know, but not everybody is aware of the fact that you live here in Maine. What brought you up here to the Pine Tree State?
Well, actually, the first time I really discovered Maine was around 1969. I was up here doing a little tour with Pete Seeger and a couple of other singers around the time that a boat that he raised money to build was being built in Damariscotta, Maine. And so I got to know the area, but I moved at that time to upstate New York and didn't really discover Maine again until about 30 years ago, when a friend of mine suggested that I come and visit him and showed me a little town called Castine, Maine. And I've been looking around for a beautiful summer place of some sort, so I bought a little house there. It wasn't that little, actually, and that was the beginning. And then I finally moved up full time, bought another place in Camden, where we've been for 24 years.
We will have more in the coming days of our conversation with Don McLean here on Rewind 100.9. And to get full details on the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame show, July 12th at the Civic Center, the website is themainemusicawardsandfestival.com. Time to catch you up on news, traffic, and AccuWeather as we turn you over to Caleb Burnett on Rewind 100.9. Don McLean's rendition of the classic Roy Orbison tune, Crying, on the new Rewind 100.9. And ahead of the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame show and festival at the Cumberland County Civic Center July 12th, we've had a chance to chat with one of the honorees, inductees, and performers for this year's Hall of Fame, Don McLean. One of the things, Don, I noted when doing some research, you had to deal with childhood asthma. And how were you able to make that work out with your desire to sing?
Well, I chose a kind of what you call a bel canto style of singing. Today, and I'm not putting this down, but you have a lot of sort of screaming, or you have a kind of talking thing being done. But bel canto is really it's an operatic style, and it's what Elvis Presley used, and Marty Robbins, Roy Orbison, people like that who were singers. So I'm a singer, and that's what I wanted to be, and I found that it gave me an enormous breath control, which really overcame a lot of the asthmatic conditions. You never really get over asthma if you're prone to it, but I have to manage that. It's been really of no consequence since I was about 15 years old.
So what's in store for fans of your music, Don? Any new projects in the works?
I'm working on an album right now. I'll be singing a few of the songs at the show, and I'm going to be bringing my son with me. He's going to sing a song or two as well. He's a singer and a guitar player, and he just graduated from Colby College, so he's doing some singing stuff this summer. Basically, I want to continue to write and make albums. I was going to stop doing that, but I realized that I was just getting bored. I wanted to write new material because I didn't have any songs that I could find that, said exactly what I wanted to say, and really that's the reason I started writing songs in the beginning, so I'm kind of back where I started.
It's kind of like that line from The Godfather, just when you think you're out, they pull you right back in.
Yeah, right.
We will continue our conversation with Don McLean in the days to come here at Rewind 100.9. He, among the other performers, again, July 12th at the Civic Center for the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame show and festival. Details, tickets, and more, you'll find it at MaineMusicAwardsandFestival.com. AccuWeather forecast details coming right up. The new Rewind 100.9 with more of that amazing variety from the 60s, 70s, and 80s on the way. Good morning, I'm Chuck Igo. It's our More Music Morning Show. We'll catch up in the AccuWeather forecast with Heather Zaire in a moment. But earlier we had a chance to catch up with Don McLean. He is among the honorees and inductees into the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame. There'll be a big concert show ceremonies at the Civic Center Saturday night, July 12th, starting at 7 o'clock. Also being honored along with Don are Howie Dade, Dave Mallett, and Ellis Paul, and there'll be other performances from folks like Devon Square, the Mallett Brothers Band, Carol Noonan. So it'll be a great night of music. And Don, you came up through the ranks with some pretty notable folks in the world of music when you were starting out back in the 60s and 70s.
Well, the people that I started with, there were so many good musicians. I mean, in the early part, there was, Judy Collins and Gordon Lightfoot and Bob Dylan and many others, and they were all great at finding songs and great at writing songs. And then later on, of course, Elton John and James Taylor and Jackson Browne, a lot of other people came along who were also very skilled and more good singers too. So there was a lot of impetus to sing well, make good records, and write the best possible songs you could, because you also had the Beatles and the Rolling Stones writing and performing and making great albums. So it was a wonderful musical environment, which is no longer with us in a contemporaneous way. It's around if you want to find it, but what's around now doesn't really do much for me.
We'll have more of our conversation with Don McLean coming up next week as we get closer to the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame show. And once again, that's Saturday night, July 12th at the Civic Center starting at 7 o'clock. You can get details and tickets at mainemusicawardsandfestival.com.
Well, I have a lot of funny things that have happened to me along the way. Really, people don't realize this, and if I say it, people will think I'm making this up, but I really don't make things up. Buddy Holly really was pretty much forgotten in 1971. And American Pie, not only, every time they play American Pie, they play Peggy Sue or Rave On or, one of his songs. And a book was written, and the writer of the book told me that, and wrote me a letter, and said that, the book never would have come out if it hadn't been for American Pie, because he tried and nobody cared. Rock and roll in those days was thought of as a very old rock and roll, the stuff from the 50s. It wasn't really, if you died back in the 50s, that people said, okay, we move on. The song got the book out, and the book led to the movie. And I remember the producers of the movie and Gary Busey coming to my dressing room and telling me that the movie never would have been made without American Pie. So I'm really happy and proud about that, because Buddy was one of my favorite artists of all time and still is. And he was a guy who died when he was 22 years old. He probably recorded 60 tracks, maybe more. He wrote every single one of them, and if you listen to them, every one of them's a hit. Well, he did a variety of things. At the end of his life, he was using strings. He sang beautiful ballads, which people don't really know him for. And then, of course, he had the great rock group with the Crickets with the double guitars and everything, which is the template really for the Stones and the Beatles and a lot of other stuff. So he was a genius.
The new Rewind 100.9, more of that amazing variety from the 60s, 70s, and 80s on the way as we conclude with these fading strains of Don McLean and wrap up our conversation with Don, who is among the honorees and inductees to the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame on Saturday night at the Cumberland County Civic Center. Don, what is the best way for people to keep up to date with what you are doing, new music projects, concerts, and more?
Oh, yeah, they can go to AmericanPie.com, they can go to DonMcLean.com, and it's the official website, and you can find out everywhere I'm going to be and tons of stuff. The website is voluminous.
One of the great things for those of us who live here in Maine is we get a chance to enjoy you doing what you love to do best, which is sing, from time to time, right here in the neighborhood.
I really, I did a thing for LL Bean once, and I did a couple of benefits around town, and one up at University of Maine a while back, and one around, different places from time to time. We have raised both our kids here. We've really loved being here and enjoyed it enormously, and we know a lot of the regular folks. In fact, my wife is a writer, and she did a wonderful book called Main Street, which you can get through Down East Books, and it's really all about the a lot of the regulars and the old-timers here in Camden. Quite a few have passed away since she did it. And she's a photographer, and she's also working on another book about children on the islands. That's going to be on Down East Books also.
Don, once again, thank you for your time and joining us here on Rewind 100.9. Continued success, and we look forward to maybe seeing you around the neighborhood from time to time. You and I can enjoy Don's music as he performs and is inducted into the Maine Music Awards Hall of Fame Saturday evening at the Cumberland County Civic Center. We'll have a few more chances this week to win your way in, but you can get full details at theciviccenter.com or MaineMusicAwardsAndFestival.com. AccuWeather forecast details coming up with Heather Zaire. News and traffic first. It's time for Kayla Bennett on Rewind 100.9.